Hey guys, this is Headbanger Thrasher, and you're lucky enough to be watching 55 Live.
Cool, bro.
Good to go.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 55 Live podcast here in conjunction with the WZWA Network. I'm one of your co-hosts of the 55 Live podcast, Karlifornia and Fury, alongside my co-host, Mr. 55 Live, Jack Wallace. Jack, how are you going tonight, my friend?
Doing pretty well, Carl. I'm glad to be back after a couple of weeks of not being able to get the show to go ahead. A couple of other guests that we will leave nameless. It's good to be back.
Now.
It's good to be back.
We've had a bit of a rough trot the last few weeks, but hey, I'm excited. We have a professional here who, when he says he's going to be somewhere, he is there, and he's here with us tonight. One half of the Headbangers, former WWF Tag Team and Hardcore Champion. He is the one and only Headbanger Thrasher. Thrasher, how are you, my friend?
Wow, that's a great introduction. I'm doing quite well, thank you. You forgot NWA Tag Team Champion.
Of course.
We beat the Rock and Roll Express for that.
We did.
Huge.
Yeah, a lot of accolades for the, and I would say the Headbangers are legendary in my books, and we're very thrilled to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I wanted to start things off here, Thrasher. I guess a bit more of a somber note. I feel like it's a topic that we should talk about straight up. Obviously, the last few days, the wrestling world lost Road Warrior Animal, and I know that you and Mosh would have spent some time with those guys. So I was just wondering your thoughts on this whole situation and how it's affected you.
It's hard when you see a close friend pass. So especially at such a young age. Joe was only 60. Saw him probably before the pandemic started, and he looked like he was in great shape. He looked healthy. He looked great. It was very hard. They were very instrumental in, I guess, the Headbangers becoming who we were. Because they led the way for tag team wrestling, with the Rock and Roll Express and everybody before us. But, they were the ones that, them and Demolition that everybody, strived to be like and wanted to, imitate. I would say out of all the other tag teams, it was, those two. To hear his passing was it was a complete and utter shock, to say the least. But especially because Joe was just such a kind, so much different than what you guys saw on TV type of person. He was a big giant teddy bear. He was just great. He would sit there and listen to anybody and talk to everybody. He was just a really great guy. So yeah, I mean, it's a huge loss for his family, for the wrestling world, for everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for that, man. Really appreciate hearing your thoughts. And yeah, for me and Jack, we're sorry for your loss as well.
So, not a funny, Headbanger LOD story. When they first came back in I want to say 97.
Yeah.
We were wrestling in the Manhattan Center. We were still part-time on our part-time contract, and we just came off the loop on the road. And we walk into Manhattan Center and we see LOD versus the Headbangers. And we were like, holy shit, we're dead.
Oh, God.
It's just going to be a squash match. We're dead in the water. But, Hawk and Animal pulled us aside and he said, hey, listen, usually when we come back, we just kill people. He goes, we spoke with Vince. Vince is very highly on you guys. He said that you're the future of the tag team division and everything else. And he wants us to have a back and forth match with a double DQ or a count out or something like that. And, just hearing them, reach out and tell us that, and they didn't have to. They came back. They're LOD. They're the Road Warriors. They're they're everything in tag team, but they took the time to, you know, as we call in the business, give us a rub, you know, give us a leg up and everything else. And it was one of those moments that, you know, I'll never forget, standing in the Manhattan Center, you know, talking to Joe and Mike, and just beside myself, going, holy shit, we're going to wrestle the Road Warriors and we're not going to get killed. It's funny because it came off on TV. Somebody just posted a clip of that, you know, unfortunately after Joe passed. And it just looked like it was a total Road Warriors squash match because all of our offense was during the commercial break. So, and then it was funny too, because afterwards they were like, hey, if you guys don't mind, you know, can we, after the count out or the DQ or anything else, can we do, you know, our finish to you? And neither one of us could get, I'll take it out of our mouth fast enough to do that. Because I mean, I don't know about anybody else, you know, but if you're in this business, you want to be one of the ones to say, yeah, I took LOD's finish. Yeah. You know, it's just one of those legendary things that you just want. There's like Ric Flair in the figure four, and you know, all that stuff. You want to take that. You want to take Hulk Hogan's leg drop. But yeah, you want to do all that. So
I remember a story when Nexus were against 7 of the WWE guys, and Bret Hart was one of the guys on Team WWE, and they were all arguing with each other who was going to be tapping out to the sharpshooter that night.
And that's what it is. It's just, you know, you grow up and you watch, you know, these finishes on TV and everything else, and you're like, oh man, that's so cool. And then you have an opportunity to do that, and it's just like you don't want to pass it up. I've done it before, so I was graceful enough to let Chaz do it. So yeah.
There we go.
So I guess, and thank you for sharing that story. That's really cool. I guess we'll go back to what our usual format is when we do these shows, and essentially we ask everyone how you first became a wrestling fan.
It's funny because I was never a wrestling fan. I was never, you know, this is going back in, I want to say the late 80s, mid 80s. So I wasn't a big like wrestling fan. Like I didn't follow it. I didn't watch it, you know, every week on TV and everything else. But I want to say I was more occasional. We had a TV station over here. It was called Prism TV. And once a month, WWF, Worldwide Wrestling Federation, would wrestle in the downtown Philadelphia at the Philadelphia Spectrum. And it was on a cable station called Prism. So they would show it once a month, and I would go over to my aunt's house because I didn't have that kind of cable. And I would watch the shows once a month. You know, I went to maybe one like house show, and it was, you know, at a local high school, and Hogan was there and stuff like that. But I think he was wrestling under the name of Terry Bola at the time. So I'm going way back.
Right.
So I was always bigger in football. You know, from the time I was like maybe 6 or 7 years old, I played Pop Warner football all the way up through high school. And I wrestled my 4 years in high school because my brother said I couldn't.
Yeah.
And then made a career out of it. So up your ass, kind of thing. So it was weird because after I graduated, I got a postcard in the mail from this school called the Monster Factory, and it was offering free tryouts for all high school graduating athletes. So I, you know, put it off to the side. I would call the number every now and then, and just to find out what it was about. And this guy, Pretty Boy Larry Sharp, would answer the phone, and he would go, "Get monsterized!" And I mean, I was 170 pounds out of high school. So I would be like, all sky, oh, and I'd hang up the phone. So, you know, that happened about 3 or 4 times. My dog. That happened about 3 or 4 times. And then I finally, I went to a computer school in Center City, Philadelphia, and I got a computer degree. And I was 19 years old, working 9 at night to 7 o'clock in the morning, and it sucked ass.
I can tell.
So what I did is it was sometime in June. Is my mom and my stepfather, we got in the car and we drove down there to the school, and it looked like a little tiny, like sub shop. It was like a pizzeria kind of place, and it was really small, dingy, and dark. But I opened up those double doors, and all I saw were these bright lights and, all these cameras and all these guys around and everything else. I'm going, oh my, I was starstruck. So there was about 9 of us down there. And what Larry does is he puts you through it is what he calls the tryout. So he teaches you how to take bumps. You do a standing back bump, you do a front flip into a bump, and then you do a handstand into a back bump. And then you learn to run the ropes. But he doesn't teach you how to run the ropes the right way. Yes, there is a right way. So then he sits down with everybody and he goes over, what they want to do and stuff like that and everything. And here I'm sitting there, I'm fresh out of high school. I wrestled in high school at 170 pounds, and then I played football at like 190. So my metabolism was all messed up after I graduated, and I could never really gain any weight. So, we're talking back in the mid 80s when you had, Hulk Hogan, you had Big John Studd, you had, King Kong Bundy, you had all these guys that were ginormous. And here I'm a buck 90, trying this wrestling thing out and everything else that I really didn't know that much about. So, everybody does their tryout. First guy goes in, he comes out, he goes, he told me no. I said, what do you mean he told you no? He goes, he told me I didn't have what it took. I said, holy shit. So this guy is actually, saying yes or no if he thinks that you have the basic skills to do something in the business. So the next guy comes out, the guy comes out and he's like, I had $3,000 in my hand, and he told me I didn't have enough athletic ability. I was like, holy shit. So I'm the next one in. I walk in there and I said, listen, before you say anything, let me come back and try out when I can gain some weight and everything else. And then Larry sitting back in his chair, he has his big cigar. He's like, listen here, kid. A lot easier to teach you how to do all these flips and shit like that at 190 than it is at 210. In 6 months, I can make you somebody. What do you want to do? So right then and there, my mom and my stepfather put down $1,500, and I paid him $100 a week for 15 weeks until my school was paid off. So that was in June. In December, I was in Japan with Giant Baba and all these other guys because the Nasty Boys were hired by WWE or WWF at the time, and we took their spots. It was me and just another guy that they threw together because Larry was good friends with Dory Funk Sr., who was the booker for Japan at the time. And I went over there. I wrestled with Kamala, Abdullah the Butcher, Stan Hansen, Danny Spivey, Giant Baba. I mean, the Fantastics were over there. It was just like, I'm brand new in the business. I'm greener than grass. And I'm over there just way out of my element. But, oh, my God, what a great lesson. What a great thing. Especially because I made back all my money right there from the wrestling school. So I was just like, man, 6 months and I'm in Japan making, $10,000 for a month. And Larry told me I was going to be somebody. So it was great. After that, I came back from Japan and then really started training at the school with Larry and stuff like that. And I eventually became the head trainer for the Monster Factory. Wow. And I trained guys such as D'Lo Brown. I trained Chaz. I had my hand in, he doesn't want to admit it, but the Big Show, Paul. When Paul first came down to the Monster Factory, he won't say that he trained there because he was only there maybe a month and a half. He was sponsored by a sponsor, so somebody paid for him to go to wrestling school. He was the most athletic big guy I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
He could stand on the apron and do a vertical jump and land inside the ring. He was so athletic. He was as tall as he is now, but he was maybe 380, 390.
Yeah.
And he was so athletic. And the story that I heard is that he was in the Boston Celtics farm team for basketball, but really didn't like basketball that much, and he wanted to try wrestling. So that's how he came down to the, I guess his sponsor or something knew about the wrestling school and stuff like that, and that's how that happened. So, I had a pretty good, hand with training some guys and stuff like that. Reckless Youth, I had a hand in. I don't know if anybody remembers him, but yeah. So
Yeah.
it was such a strange beginning, because I was just like, all I knew is I wanted some kind of physicality in my life, because I had it all the way up from the time I was 7. And I figured if I didn't find some way to channel that physicality that I needed, I'd end up in jail. So I figured this might be the best way to go about it. So
Yeah, definitely. So
Wow, what a start in the business there, Jack. Over to you, mate.
absolutely, it was
insane,
crazy.
isn't it? How opening was the experience working in Japan as Frankie favorite so early in your
Frankie
career?
favorite.
And
Yeah,
what did you learn? Oh, sorry. What did you learn the most there as well?
It was funny because, Abdullah the Butcher, God bless him. I love that guy. Everybody has their Abdullah stories. I have nothing but great stories about Abdullah.
Yeah.
He was such a kind man when I was over there. He kind of took me under his wing. I didn't know what sponsors were when I was over there and everything else. So, I didn't know what Rapungi was or where it was or anything else. I didn't know what Ribera's Steakhouse was. I just knew guys had jackets
Yeah.
from the steakhouse.
Classic.
So, I mean, so it was more of the fact of, going from practicing every single night to actually doing it in front of tens and thousands of people that they would get at, all over the place. Back then, I think that I want to say this was 1991 when this happened. And it was just the crowds that they would get over there was a learning experience. Just being in the ring with the guys, by the end of the tour, my tag team partner, Frankie or Johnny Favorite, got hurt. So he wasn't able to work. So I was in main events it was me, Stan Hansen, and Danny Spivey against Giant or Kamala, Abdullah the Butcher, and one of the other top guys over there. And it was just being able to work with Kamala, the original Kamala, and Abdullah and stuff like that was just it's just crazy. It was just beyond belief. And it was so funny, a funny Abby story. One of the nights we were working, he goes, "Hey champ," he calls everybody champ. If you know Abby, he calls everybody champ. "Hey champ." He goes, "Tonight you can get color." I went, "Get color? What are you talking about?" I said, he goes, "You go Joose." I went, "Now, mind you, I'm 6 months into the business. I have no idea what coloring is or getting juice. I thought I was going to go get the guy orange juice and I was going to color in a coloring book for him. I had no idea." So he's like, "No, I'm going to hit you in the head with this hammer, and then, you're going to, gimmick." I'm going, "How are you talking? Just spit it out, man. Speak English." So I'm looking at his forehead, and you can literally take a quarter and stick it in Abby's forehead and side in some of these slots and stuff like that. I'm going, "Oh, yeah, I get. Could you go like side to side?" Well, we get in the match. He hits me with the hammer. I see the blade comes out. He cuts me. I'm bleeding. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is not side to side.
Yeah.
It's up and down.
There we go.
But yeah, that was my first experience with blood and everything else. Now, mind you, in the business back then, kayfabe was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge. You didn't talk about anything to anybody. So my mom, who paid for me to go through all this, one of my shows when I came back, it's so weird because once I bled the first time, it's such, I don't know, it's going to sound weird. It was an adrenaline rush that it was just like, oh my God. So I came back and I was wrestling under a mask and as the Spider, and I'm wrestling in a high school that my great grandmother named. It was called Sterling High School, and it was in New Jersey. So my mom's in the front row and she's watching the match. And one of the spots where I was chasing the guy around the ring, or I was chasing the manager around the ring, and then he was going to jump up and hit me. So I'm chasing this manager around the ring, and my mom jumps up and catches her and goes, "Here you go, honey, I got her."
Oh, no.
So she blew the whole spot. She had to sit back down, and then after that, I got color. I bled that night, and she was just beside herself.
Oh no!
She was, "There's no way you're doing this ever again." You know how mothers are.
Yeah.
So then I had to smarten her up and going, "Mom, all that was supposed to happen." "Well, you were bleeding. It was all over." And so then I had to go, "No, I did that myself." "What are you, stupid?" All that stuff. So, after a while, she got the grips on it and everything else. But yeah, back then, we were in so much in the kayfabe. When we wrestled down in USWA, heels were on one side, the faces were on the other. You didn't talk before matches. You didn't set things up. You called it in the ring.
Lost art, isn't it?
Oh.
Absolutely.
So, I want to say that I learned how to do that in Japan, because now you remember you're wrestling foreign guys in Japan that really don't speak English. So how are you running your spots? You're watching what they're doing, and you're coming off, or you're telling the bilingual referee, "Hey, tell him to watch out for this." "Hey, tell him to watch out for that." And hopefully that ref understands what you're saying and gets it over to the other guy.
Wow.
So yeah, it was definitely a crash course in the business, and I want to say it was the best thing I ever did.
Big time, man. You're pretty much throwing all your eggs in one basket, sending yourself to a foreign country like Japan to
Absolutely.
wrestle, especially back in the 90s, because it wasn't always going to be not like today, where if you even get one contract anyway, you're essentially set for life in the wrestling business, because if you can get signed with any company, that's you good to go. That's from my perspective anyway. I'm not.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially back then, there was the two big. There was All Japan and New Japan Pro Wrestling back then, and then you had a bunch of little tiny, like, smaller ones. But even, like, I went over a second time, and I went over for a little smaller one where Pongo was, or I forget what his name, but he was brutal in, like, the hardcore matches and stuff like that.
Oh, that's
I went over there, and I was in a tag team with Terry Funk. It was me and Terry Funk, and that was my last match ever in Japan, because I dislocated not one elbow, but two elbows at the same time.
Oh.
Shit.
So yeah. So and I'll never forget Terry coming over to me, and I'm laying on the ground, and I'm like this, my elbows, and I'm trying to hold them up and everything else. And they're extremely dislocated, and he's like, "Sell it, brother. They'll make it an angle." And I'll never forget it. He came to the hospital with me and everything. Terry is just he's a class act. He's a great guy.
Terry Funk is awesome, man. I've just so much respect for him and his work, man. Tell us,
see everybody. My kids are going, "Who are you talking to?" Shut up and do something.
Do your homework. So you mentioned that you trained Mosh at the Monster Factory. Was that the first time you met him as well?
It was weird because he went to that school that my great-grandmom named, Sterling High School.
Yep.
So, and he wrestled, when he was in high school. So we kind of knew of each other, but didn't know each other. Like, he wrestled at a much lighter weight than I was wrestling and stuff like that. So it was just so weird when he came down to the school. He used to come to Larry used to run shows that were once a month. So he would come down to the shows and watch the shows and everything else, because he was a huge wrestling fan. Yeah. So he would come down and watch it, and he always, wanted to try it. I remember when he came down for a tryout and everything else. And it was from that tryout that it just clicked. It was like, we knew each other forever. It was very, very, I'm going to make breakfast when I'm done. Relax. Jesus. So it was like we already knew each other from, forever. So it was just a natural thing. It was so funny because Larry always tried to talk me out of being a tag team. And everything that he said made so much sense. And he goes, listen, he goes, you don't want to be a tag team. He goes, because the bookers, when they're booking matches, he goes, they have 7 matches. So that's, 6 matches that are single matches. So that's 12 people. And then there's 1 match back then that was a tag team. He goes, that's 4 people. He goes, so you're limiting your chance of exposure being a tag team other than a single wrestler.
Right.
So this is I want to say this is 93. And, I'm out on my own doing all this, stuff by myself as the Spider and stuff like that, wrestling, anywhere I could. But I just wanted to go out more. Jerry Lawler used to come down to the shows at the Monster Factory because Larry would always bring in a very top name. And, back then, even today, you don't get a higher name than Jerry the King Lawler. I mean, he's just at the very top too. So he always told me, he's like, hey, listen, if you ever want to come down to Memphis and work for me at USWA, he goes, you always have an open invitation, which was awesome. But I was, again, new in the business, maybe 3 years, scared to death to go to a territory and work. I mean, we all know it was $40 a night. It's 5 nights a week and stuff like that, maybe 6. But, I mean, you didn't want to go down there by yourself. For one, you don't know anybody because you're so new in the business. And where do you stay? Where do you live? How do you it was much easier when we actually did go as a tag team. Chaz was maybe in the business 4 or 5 months before we showed up in USWA as the Spiders and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was just, I forget what the fucking question was.
First time you met Mosh.
Yeah,
it was, yeah. So it was more, his training was very fast. It was very furious. At that time I was still doing the jobs for Vince on WWF TV. Every Saturday morning I was one of the beat up guys. I was right there next to Dwayne Gill and Barry Hardy. And, Scott was there with us and everything else. And everybody always told me, if you want to make it in the wrestling business, don't do those jobs. Well, those jobs got my foot in the door and got me to meet, Jim Cornette, got me to, also get closer with Lawler, got me to meet Vince. Vince knew who me and Chaz were before we ever signed with Vince. Yeah. So, I mean, it was definitely a huge advantage going up and doing that. So
big time.
Absolutely.
Man.
A lot of guys, I don't know who gave you that advice. You said their name, but Scott Taylor, there's so many people that when I watch old footage and I'm like, oh shit, like that's David Heath, that's Gangrel.
Right. It wasn't nobody's advice. It was like the people outside the business that didn't understand it.
Oh,
it was like the people I went to high school with going, I saw you on TV and you got beat up.
Yeah, they were
right.
They didn't say that at my 10-year reunion when I kept the reunion going for another year and paid for it in cash and then left and said, fuck you guys, I'm out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yourself and Mosh make a few appearances for ECW back in the day. How was that experience, and what was your interaction with Paul Heyman like?
For ECW?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did one show for them. We did one show.
Yep.
And we wrestled against the Rotten Brothers, Axel and Ian.
Awesome.
So it was weird. We were like, we just got back from USWA. We wanted to keep going and everything else, and of course, at that time, ECW was starting to catch some wind and everything else. So we wrestled a lot with Axel and Ian in USWA. So they're like, hey, let's, come over to ECW. I'll get Paul to give you a chance and everything else. But we were Monster Factory guys. I don't know if Paul and Larry ever had a beef. I don't know. I just know that, we had people in the back watching. And, it was overheard from other people. I don't know how true it is. Paul's never given me any reason to believe anything other than this. We've always been, very friendly, very cordial. So it got back to us that when we were in the ring with the Rotten Brothers, he goes, "Watch what I do with these two assholes." So it got back to us, and that was our first and last show with us for ECW. We were scheduled to work with them again. We were going to wrestle with the Pitbulls. And Chaz had some abscess cyst on his back where it was so big, and it was on his tailbone, which he had to get it surgically removed. And it was at the same time that we were supposed to go back. So we called off of that second show with the Pitbulls and stuff like that, and we just never heard back from them or anything else. So what I want to reiterate, I don't want this going out the wrong way. We heard that's what Paul said. Nobody, he's never given me any reason to think that he didn't like us or anything else. That's just what people said.
Right.
There's a lot of things that are said in this business that are misconstrued or taken the wrong way or anything else. But, when we went up and, whenever we saw Paul, when they were doing the invasion, ECW versus WWF and everything else, he was always great. I've never, ever had a problem with Paul. I think he's probably one of the most brilliant minds in this business. We just didn't fit at the time with ECW. I think the Headbanger gimmick would have been over huge in ECW because of the contrast and ECW kind of stood for the same thing that, they didn't care, what anybody else said. Either did we. We just didn't care. I still don't.
Yep.
So.
I wanted to ask next about you guys heading over to Smoky Mountain in 1995, and if you have any fun Jim Cornette stories.
Oh my God, I got too many Jim Cornette stories. It's funny because, again, like Jerry Lawler, Cornette used to come up and he used to manage Chris Candido, and for Larry at every month he would come up. Every month, Jerry would come up and stuff like that. So I was very, very close with Cornette. And once we got our run done in Smoky Mountain, and then after Smoky Mountain, we went over to Ozark Mountain Wrestling, which was with Bert Prentice. Once we finished up with Bert, I reached out and called Cornette, and I said, "Hey, listen, we're available and stuff like that and everything else." He's like, "Listen, guys, I love your work." He goes, "But I hate the hoods."
Right. Yeah.
So we were wrestling under the hoods called the head or the spiders at the time.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Let me come up with a gimmick and see what we can do." So then he calls us up, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks later, he goes, "I got it." You guys are going to laugh because he goes, "I got it. I know this guy. I went to this concert. I went to a Danzig concert because I know Glenn Danzig. And these guys were mosh pitting all over the place. They were spitting on each other. They had tattoos. They had ear piercings and everything else." And he goes, "And the first thing I thought about was you guys because we had the tattoos. We had the ear piercings. We listened to Marilyn Manson. We listened to the heavy metal and stuff like that." He goes, "I'm going to call you guys the Headbangers, Mosh and Slasher." So we go down and we meet with Cornette, and I'm like, "All right, Mosh and Slasher." And I said to Jimmy, I said, "There's a guy in a band called Slash, right?" He's like, "No, I didn't know that." He goes, "So we'll change your name, I don't know, Slasher, Thrasher. Well, Mosh and Thrasher." So Jim Cornette came up with the name. So at the time, we were wrestling in like cargo shorts or shorts like that, that style with sneakers, and we had our hair back then, and we had the heavy metal T-shirts. So then we're watching MTV. Cornette comes up to us first, and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "you guys need to like wear some skirts and wedding gowns and stuff like that." And I went, "Absolutely not." I said, "I am not wearing a wedding dress. I'm not wearing a skirt." I said, "Cornette," I said, "Jimmy, that's where I draw the line." He's like, "Listen," he goes, "you guys will get tremendous amount of heat down here in the Bible Belt if you guys wear skirts." And I'm like, "Nah, Jimmy, I don't think that. I'm not with that."
No.
So we're watching MTV at the time, and MTV, yes, kids, at one time, used to play music
Oh,
videos.
wow.
That's why Ed said MTV.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there watching MTV, and we see Axl Rose out on stage wearing a kilt.
Yeah.
Me and Chaz looked at each other and we went, wow, that looked pretty fucking cool. So we go to the closest thrift shop, Army surplus store, Salvation Army, whatever we could find. And we're walking through the aisles, and here we are. He's 6'2", I'm 6'4", and we're trying on skirts and going, hey, does this look right? Hey, does this? And all these people in the store are going, what the fuck are wrong with these two guys?
That would have made a great vignette.
It would have. So we eventually tried it, and sure enough, it got us so much heat, so much hatred from the fans down there. It was just unbelievable. So we ran with it. And mind you, it was the most comfortable thing I've ever wrestled in my life. So we stuck with the skirts and everything else, and that's how the whole Headbanger thing came to be. Cornette, my whole thing was Cornette. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with Cornette, with people not liking him, saying all this stuff about him and everything else. My thing is with Jimmy, if you don't want to know the answer, don't fucking ask Jim Cornette the question, because he's going to tell you how he feels 100%. Whether it's right or wrong, Jimmy's going to tell you how he sees it and how he feels about it. Jimmy is very, very old school. He believes in kayfabe. He believes it in kayfabe to today. He can't stand the fact that it's called sports entertainment. Can't stand it, and I know he can't.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I don't have anything bad to say about Jimmy. If it wasn't for Jimmy, we probably would have never came up with the Headbangers. We probably, they wouldn't have existed. We probably would have been something else.
Yeah.
But we owe a lot to Jimmy, and forever grateful for everything that he's done. Jimmy's still to this day a very close friend. I would have no problem reaching out to him and calling him or anything else like that. I love Jimmy Cornette. So
cool, man. I'm guessing maybe what you guys are doing as the Headbangers there in Smoky Mountain might have led to you guys getting a call from New York.
It did. Very much so.
Please take us through that moment of getting the call, and I guess maybe you would have had a meeting or something like that. How did that all go?
So it was weird. It was quite different than that whole thing. But we did get a call. So what happened was Smoky Mountain was going out of business at the time. Right. It was, down to the last couple of months and stuff like that. I think an investor pulled out and Jimmy couldn't run it all by himself. So what he did is he took several of his guys and he introduced them to Vince. He goes, hey, I got this guy. I got this guy. I got, Al Snow. I got this guy called Unabomb who came to be Kane. But first he was Dr. Isaac Yankem. He was Fake Diesel. He was all that stuff. So, Cornette put us in the eyes of Vince. And so what Jimmy told us, he goes, hey, I approached Vince, told him about you guys. He guys remembered you guys from coming up and doing the jobs. And, Cornette called us on the phone and said this. And he said, you guys don't even need to try out or anything else like that. He goes, he's going to sign you guys to part-time contracts. So at this time, I want to say it was early 1996, maybe late 95. We went up there, signed part-time contracts. What they were exclusive just for TV. They were TV contracts. They were going up there. Vince wanted to get away from the jobbers and the squash matches and everything else and have more competitive matches on TV.
Yeah.
So that's what we were brought in for. Freddie Joe Floyd, T.L. Hopper, Salvatore Sincere, all came from that whole bundle.
Of course.
It's funny because we used to tease Tracy Smothers because he was Freddie Joe Floyd, and it was so close to Tracy Smothers. Really, it was funny. So that's how that happened. We went up and we did one squash match. We went up. We used to live in South Jersey, and it was maybe 2.5 hours, 3 hours from Titan Tower. So whenever we had time, we were always up at the tower. I mean, we were up there so much they gave us our own scan card to get into the gate and stuff like that.
Right.
We were always up there doing something and everything else, you know, messing with Vince. You know, Vince, I mean, see, you guys don't see Vince like this, but he's a prankster. He likes the pranks. I don't know if he's so much like that now, but back then, oh yeah, he was a big ribber. He would like it. He would like getting ribbed. He would like giving out the ribs and stuff like that. So we used to go into his office and rearrange his desk, rearrange the furniture in there. It was funny because one time that, you know, we were very friendly with his secretary. She was a sweet girl. I think her name was Beth. She was an older lady. I think that's what her name. I
think you're right. That rings a bell.
But that was his secretary at the time, and we would always go in. But anyway, she had a big giant thing of flowers on her desk one day, and I went, "Who are they for?" She goes, "They're for Vince."
No.
So I open up the card, and it says, "To Vince, thanks for all the 100 shows," or it was something about Monday Night Raw, and it was from USA Network. So of course, me and Chaz, being who we are, we just cross out USA Network and put the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, and we just left it. And we did all that stuff, and I think that's what got us on the Shotgun Saturday Night to shows, because those shows were supposed to be generated from nightclubs.
Yeah.
I want to believe that show was intentionally made for us and our crowd that we caught wind of. And everything else, because it was in the nightclubs. It was crazy. It was just nuts all the time. So I think that's how Shotgun Saturday Night originated, was through us and the gimmick and everything else. So and then I guess you guys are going to want to break into the Flying Nuns.
Oh, that was actually my next question.
Yeah.
See, it's almost like I've done this before, right?
You've done it, man. So, what was the idea behind the team, and what did you think of it?
So, you know what? It's funny. Vince comes up to you with an idea, and it's his idea, and you're like, God. Vince, I don't care how stupid the idea is. It's your idea. It's great.
Yeah.
So he approached us. It was right before they started doing the Shotgun Saturday Night, and says, "Hey, I got this idea." He goes, "Do you guys remember Sally Fields? Neither one of you will know who Sally Fields is or remember the TV show, The Flying Nun." No. But anyway, it's this. See, both.
I know her name, but that's about
somebody
it.
is Googling it right now.
I'm too young.
Somebody's Googling it right now. So there was a TV show called The Flying Nun. So what she would do is, it was just a show. She had the nun hat, but it was really big. It looked like an airplane on her head. The bonnet
I'm Googling it now. I can see it.
So, see it? You see what I'm talking about. So he goes, I think it would be hysterical to mix the Headbangers in with this group called the Flying Nuns.
Oh, God.
He goes, so what we want to do is we want to bring you guys out and everything else, still with the beards and the earrings and stuff like that, and still wrestle the same way you guys do as the Headbangers. But I want to do this on this new show called Shotgun Saturday Night. So we were the very first match on Shotgun Saturday Night against the Godwins.
Right,
that's when the Sisters of Love came to be with Brother Love. Yeah. How appropriate. It's funny because we just did a virtual autograph signing, and people were coming up asking us to sign the encyclopedia of the Sisters of Love. And I looked over at Chad and I said, "Do you remember which one you were?" And neither one of us could remember, but I think I was Mother Schmucker and he was Sister Angelica. So that's how it came to be. And Vince is like, the final outcome of this whole thing is going to be, the cameras are going to finally start looking up and seeing that you guys are very similar looking to the Headbangers. And what I want to portray is, you guys don't care what you wear, you just want to fight. And we were like, Vince, that's a great idea. Whatever you want us to do, we didn't care. We were doing vignettes in New York City in front of the biggest Catholic church up there. And we're in a limo. Vince is in another one. So he told us, he goes, go up to the doors. He goes, act like you're praying. He goes, we're going to take a shot of you and everything else. None of us knew that as we're filming this, dong, dong, the goddamn church, oh God, I said goddamn and church at the same time. The church, I'm going straight to hell. The bongs go off, the church goes off, the doors open up, people come out, they see these two guys in nun outfits with the big giant hats on that look like airplanes. This one little old lady, God bless her, she comes over to us and starts praying because we're standing there praying with our heads down and stuff like that. That was the vignette. And she comes over and she's praying with us and everything else. And she's much shorter than we are. She pans up and she sees our chest. Then she sees the goatee. Then she sees the earrings. And she starts beating the living crap out of us with her purse.
Yes.
Vince is in the limo. He goes, I got enough. Come back in the limo.
Amazing.
So that all ended because Vince was getting a lot of, I guess, flack from the community, the church community, and the Catholic churches and stuff like that. So he finally just said, you know what, we'll just end it and go back to the Headbangers. It was fun while it lasted. Chaz one year for Halloween was a pregnant nun, so that, you know, it worked out well. He had a Halloween costume out of it. So yeah, that's how that started.
Who did you guys? This is so stupid. Who did you guys become friends with first in the WWF?
It was weird because we knew everybody before we were even signed from doing jobs and everything else like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, it was funny because you know, Billy and Bart were up there when they were the Smoking Guns, and I was there when they had their tryout. I remember them waiting in the next to the chalkboard and everything else, waiting for them to go out for their tryout. So I mean, we were friends and we knew everybody beforehand, but it was so weird back then. It was such a, this is the vibe I got. I don't know if everybody else felt this way. It was so family. You know, Owen and Davey Boy and Brett and Sean and, you know, just Taker. I mean, I was one of the first guys in Undertaker's body bag way back in the day. You know, I knew them from before, so they welcomed us into the family. It was almost like that. You know, there was times where I would bring my older two kids. You know, at the time they were, you know, I want to say 4 and 2 at the time. Whenever we wrestled, you know, in Philly, Owen would be in the cafeteria coloring with them. You know, China would be out in the arena playing hide and seek with the girls and stuff like that. It was very, you know, as you saw in Brett's, you know, documentary, you know, he tells his kids, oh, go find the Headbangers, go play with the Headbangers. That's how it was. I mean, it was very family oriented. We knew we weren't main event. We knew we were opening match or mid-card match. That's what we were. That's what tag teams were back then and everything else. If you weren't LOD or, you know, people like that. So we knew where our place was. You know, we hung around with Shamrock a lot. You know, Billy, I want to say Bob Holly, Goldust, we were with a lot. Dustin. You know, we hung around with everybody. We traveled together, me and Chaz. Sometimes we traveled with Ken Shamrock. Sometimes we traveled with Owen. There was a time that it was funny. We left a town in Texas, and Owen comes up to us. He goes, "You guys going to the hotel?" I said, "Yeah, of course we're going to the hotel." So he gets in the car with us, gets to the hotel. All the rooms are sold out. Here's Owen Hart, European champion, tag team champion. He's carrying around all them damn slammies and everything else. Doesn't have a hotel room. So we said, Owen, come, you can stay in our room. I'll sleep on the floor and everything else. So Owen goes, okay, great. So he comes up. He goes, I'll sleep on the floor, but I just need blankets. So he makes like a pallet in the corner with the blankets and everything else. So we go to bed next morning. We wake up. He's taking a shower, and Owen was funny. Owen was every story that you've ever heard about Owen is 100% true. You'll never find a bad story about Owen because it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So he knew that we were so new in WWF at the time. Of course, he's taking the shower. He has out on the dresser. He has his European title out. He has the tag team belt out. He has them all like staged, like set up, like haha, look at these and everything else. So we're looking at each other and we're going, should we touch them?
Yeah.
I'm going, nah, we should. Chad's like, we should touch them.
We should.
And
We should.
so eventually we pick them up and we're jumping up and down on the bed like we just won them. We're jumping around going, woo! And then all of a sudden we hear the shower kick off. And then we're like, holy shit. So we put the belts back and everything else, and he comes out and we're just like sitting on the beds and everything else. He looks down at the belts. He looks at us. He looks down at the belts. He goes, did you guys touch my belts? No. Owen, we would never do that. No. He's like, you guys touched my belts, didn't you? We're like, maybe. He's like, well, I left them out for a reason. That's why I left them out, so two dumbasses could jump around on the bed and act like idiots. So it was funny. He knew that we were in awe of Owen Hart because, who wasn't at that time in awe of Owen? So that's my, and then, before that, he would padlock our bags together and stuff like that.
Annoying.
He pulled pranks,
Textbook
but it was so funny because he was always waiting for a reaction. That's why he would prank people, because he waited for a reaction, and we didn't sell it. So once you didn't sell it, he left you alone. And we were like, we're going to the same hotel. We drive together. You could have picked like our bag in like Bradshaw or somebody like that we were driving with. This wasn't that funny. So that's our own story. And but yeah.
Oh man.
So I mean, we were close with everybody. We weren't in like any kind of like group or anything else like that we're like that. We were just with everywhere.
Just the boys. So September 7th, 1997, a big date for the Headbangers. You guys captured the WWF World Tag Titles at Ground Zero in Louisville, Kentucky. How was that moment for you both? And try to take us through how you found out you were going to win them.
It was actually surreal because we got because we used to wrestle in Louisville Gardens for Cornette and for Lawler. We would run Louisville Gardens, I believe it was every Tuesday, because we would do Monday in Memphis, and then Tuesday or Wednesday we would do Louisville Gardens. So it was home for us. We knew, all about the thing. But anyway, we walk into the building, and Cornette, is waiting for us. And he's like, you two, come here now. He takes us all the way downstairs into the parking garage, standing next to trash cans. And he goes, I need to talk to you two. We're like, holy shit, we're in trouble. They finally saw us. Thank God there was no social media back then. But so we're walking down there, and we're like, oh my God, we're in trouble. We're like, Jimmy, what do we do? He goes, no, come down here. So we get all the way down there. He goes, guys. He goes, we weren't even in the match before we weren't even on the pay-per-view before that day. He goes, you guys are in the pay-per-view. He goes, you're in a fatal four-way for the tag belts with Owen and Davey, and I think it was
the Goblins,
the Blackjacks, the Godwins,
and LOD.
LOD.
Yeah.
Huge.
And us. And he goes, and you guys are winning the tag belts.
Fuck.
So now, mind you, we're in a parking garage next to a fucking dumpster. And I look at Chaz. He looks at me. We're like, okay, cool. Cornette looks at us. He goes, guys, I just told you you're winning the WWF tag team belts. I brought you down here so you two fucking idiots can jump around and act like a child before you to do that in front of all the boys. He goes, so I brought you down there for that reason. So as soon as he gave us the go ahead, we were freaking crazy. I was on the phone calling my mom going, hey, make sure you watch the pay-per-view. I can't tell you what's going to happen, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. So it was just it's like, if you guys ever met somebody that played in the Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl or anything else like that, it was the Super Bowl of wrestling. Winning the tag belts. Yes, it was something that was given to us, but to us, it felt like Vince felt so highly of us to let us have that. So the belts are a prop. For anybody to think that they earn it or anything else like that is just ridiculous. It's a prop to help elevate you, your marketing stuff, all your shirts, all your stuff like that.
I agree,
because
100%.
They feel that they can make a lot more money from you guys showcasing you than anything else. So I want to say that's why we also lost them the next month, is because they saw that we didn't need props or stuff like that, and were able to still, sell as much merchandise as we did. So that's how it came to be, is Cornette taking us down in the basement and telling us that. And it was just so surreal for the guy that created the Headbangers that got us into, or helped us get into, the WWF, tell us that we were winning the tag belts. It was the right person, the right time, the right moment, and it was something special between us three. That's why I have such a fond place for Jimmy, because he thought that much of us that he wanted to tell us. He wanted to be the one to say, "Hey, you guys are my boys. This is what I want to. I want to do this for you guys." So I thought it was a surreal moment. It's so hard. I'm asked it all the time, what's it like and stuff like that. Between that and winning at WrestleMania and stuff like that, I can't really explain the feeling or anything else other than it's like winning the biggest game, the biggest thing of your life. It takes it to a different level that you're thought of that much. So it was a great honor. It really was. So I wish it would have been longer. I wish we had another run, but I guess they didn't feel like we needed that. So
how did you two celebrate after the show?
It was funny because my oldest daughter, it was one of the trips that she had to come with me with, and she had to be 4 years old, I want to say. So she was backstage watching and everything else. She didn't understand it. She thought Daddy was Stone Cold Steve Austin because she would walk up to him and start having to talk to him. And, I guess all bald guys from the back look the same. I don't freaking know. But, so we went back to the hotel, and it was a normal Headbanger night. It was long. Mine wasn't as long as his. We were very much the guys that went out and partied and did all that stuff. The Headbanger lifestyle, I mean, that gimmick was us. It wasn't, it wasn't a made up thing. Some of the best gimmicks are the ones that are very similar to your personality. That's how we were. We were out 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Other guys would be getting up and going to the gym, and we would just be dragging our butts home into the hotel from, all night drinking and stuff like that. So his was much more than mine because I had my 4-year-old daughter with me. But the best part was I guess celebrating it with her. She was picking it up and jumping up on the bed, and I was like, "Oh my God, I did that with Owen's belt."
Awesome.
And now that belt is mine, and now it's mine. So it was something else.
That's amazing.
And the whole crowd thing that we did afterwards, that was all spur of the moment. We jumped the rail, and Vince is like, "I want you guys to celebrate as much as you want. I don't care what you guys do or anything else." So we were jumping the rails. We were in with the fans and everything else. And then they did a pre-tape of how we kept celebrating afterwards at the hot dog stand. You remember seeing that video?
Yeah.
And we were throwing hot dogs out to everybody and everything else. Yeah, that was real. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, and that's what it was about back then. It was entertaining. It was fun. It was, you know, these guys are really crazy like that and everything else. And that's how we really were. I mean, we were that way.
That's awesome. Speaking of partying, going out till 4 or 5 in the morning, do you have any stories of Shane McMahon? Because I've heard he was a big partier with some of the boys back in the day.
We never really went out with like office people because that'll get you in trouble.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Especially Shane as well,
so
being the boss's son.
exactly. Well, I mean,
Not the
it
best
was
idea.
funny because we were really close with Shane. When we used to go up to Titan Towers, we would always go see Shane and everything else because you guys won't know this. Shane was a huge Marilyn Manson fan. He actually had
Really?
the Marilyn Manson biography, Marilyn Manson's first book. He actually had in his office.
Wow.
And he
awesome.
actually said that he read it and everything else. He was a huge, I don't know if he was a huge Marilyn Manson fan, but yeah, he had his autobiography in his office in Titan Towers. I'll never forget seeing it going, Shane. He's like, yeah, I love that stuff.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
man.
we never
That's
really
awesome.
partied with anybody from the office, but it wasn't like when we were going from town to town that we would pass like Vince and, you know, Pat Patterson and all those guys in the car. And we would have beer cans all on the dashboard and everything else. And they would drive by and they would just be like looking in the window going like that. And then they would like drop back and then they would pass us again. And Vince would be driving and you'd see him like act like he was sleeping, but he was steering from like the bottom down here and everything else. And, you know, it was such a different time.
Oh, man.
Like when we went back in 2016, it was such a different time than it was in the Attitude Era. It's very, very much more business oriented now than it was before. You know, the boys in the locker room, we ran the locker rooms. You know, we played, you know, video games, we played cards, we played dominoes. We were together. We were always together. We would go to the gym together. We would travel together. When we went back in 2016, it just felt very more business oriented than before.
Yeah, right. Not as fun, not as
well, I don't want to say not as fun, but it was definitely a different atmosphere.
Yeah,
right.
It was definitely I mean, I understand what Triple H is trying to get and everything else. He wants everybody to treat it like a business because it is a business.
yeah.
It's a very lucrative business at that. So I mean, I understand where he's coming from with that and everything else. But I mean, it's still, you know, you're on the road 280, 300 days a year. You know, it's long. It's grueling, that schedule. You know, it's not like football. We don't have an off season. So there was times that I was gone 280 days a year, you know, back when we were on the road and stuff like that. You get home Wednesday morning, you'd be back out Thursday night, or Friday morning. Yeah. You were home a day and a half. You had enough time to watch your stuff and go. Or if you were like Vader, throw it into the back of your truck and forget about it.
Yeah.
The next question I want to ask you about was working with the Oddities and the Insane Clown Posse.
It was funny because I just watched the video of the Insane Clown Posse. They were supposed to be with us. The whole gimmick behind everything was they were going to come in, they were going to be with the Oddities, then they were going to turn their back on the Oddities and come with us, and we were going to be heels. And they pushed it and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it until Vince finally had enough and said, "No, I'm done." So that's where the came out where we actually wrestled them in a match and beat the living shit out of them. Yeah. I think that was the last sighting of them.
Right.
Working with the Oddities, it was great. You know, who wouldn't want to work with George the Animal Steel and, you know, Earthquake? Yeah. And you know, John was he was so great. He was another one. He was a gentle giant. It was harder to work with the bigger guys. I mean, they were so much bigger than us.
Yeah, they were huge.
It was almost like it was cheating. You know, but it was fun. It was something that it was entertaining. You know, that was the birth of the tag teams of the unit, the WWE tag team champs of the universe. Yep. Yep. And back to the Flying Nuns. They are the only undefeated tag team in the world, in the history of wrestling.
Flying nuns. There you go. You heard it here first, everyone.
They were one and done. So yeah, it's funny because at WrestlingTees.com we actually have a T-shirt that says "Flying Nuns still undefeated after all these years" or something like that. It's pretty funny.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, working with them, it was great. It was fairly, easy to work with them. It was great, working with George and, like I said, Earthquake and stuff like that. I wish, we could have seen the end of the whole storyline where the ICP would have came with us and stuff like that and everything. But, it is what it is.
I'd love to see those guys trying to pile into a rental car. Earthquake, Kurgan, Giant Silver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they even have cars big enough that can fit all of them in?
They will probably have to get like 5 separate rental cars.
It's called a flatbed. But it's funny, years later, after I left wrestling, and I left wrestling. When I mean I left wrestling, I left wrestling. I didn't get back into wrestling until about, I want to say 2010. So when I left in 2001, I was out of it for 9-10 years. I ballooned up to 315 pounds. I was pretty much unrecognizable as even an athlete. So when I moved down to Florida, I got back into shape. Me and Chaz got back together and stuff like that. And because he lived in Florida, I was down here for vacation. Long story short, we got back together. I moved my family down here, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So it was weird because we got a phone call from ICP. They have their own wrestling federation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys know about that. So we get a call.
JCW, yeah.
JCW, yes. And they do a thing called The Gathering every year. Gathering of Juggalos. And where they hold week-long wrestling events. So, I don't know, we got a phone call from them, and lo and behold, they want us to come out. And me and Chaz are going, holy shit, here's the receipt for that match. Here it comes right now. So we asked for an astronomical price, and they gave it to us. And we went out there for 5 days, and they were so appreciative of that match, because after that match they were with WCW. Yeah. Right after that.
Yeah.
They were so appreciative. They said they learned so much from their time, with us and everything else, and this was their way of giving back to us. So they wanted to show how much they appreciated what we did for them. So it was totally the opposite of what we thought, because we thought they were just going to, give us a receipt and kick the shit out of us for 5 days and stuff like that. But, in the business, you take it. You take the good with the bad. But it was a crazy event. The Gathering of Juggalos is no joke.
Yeah, I've seen a documentary about it.
Yeah,
I want to go one day.
It's no joke. Oh, what happened? I lost people.
There you go.
There you are. Oh, yeah, it's no joke. If you go, I mean, you'll have a great time.
I've heard it's insane. No pun intended.
Yeah, it is. It very much is. We were at the one time where one of the Juggalos got caught stealing from another Juggalo, and you don't do that. They police themselves. They tipped over his car and set it afire.
Oh, shit.
Good on him.
So, yeah, he had no way home.
Good. Serves him right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Over to you, Jack. I've got to go sort out my cat. He looks like he wants some food. I'll be back.
Yeah, no dramas. What was it like working with the Rock and Roll Express and beating them for the NWA tag team titles?
That was again. It was another surreal moment. It was because when we first got to Smoky Mountain, that's what Jim Cornette said. He goes, "Here, watch some videos on the Rock and Roll Express. Come up with some different stuff and everything else." So that's where we came up with a lot of stuff. The stage dive, which is the best tag team finisher in the business today, is better than the Doomsday Advice. It's better than 3D. It's better than everything. Why? Because of the timing behind the stage dive. He does a power bomb. I do a leg drop off the top. We come down together. Time that, Ask D'Lo how long it took us to perfect that. I sat on D'Lo's face a lot. He was the first one to ever take the stage dive.
And he took a lot of them, I'm guessing.
He took a lot of, yes, until we got it down. Yeah. So in my eyes, and I will dispute it with everybody until I'm blue in the face, that is the best tag team finisher of all time, because there's no tag team finisher that has the timing that the stage dive has. But anyway, back to the Rock and Roll Express. That's what Cornette did. He said, watch these tapes, watch Ricky and Robert, see what they do and everything else. And then when we got to meet them in Smoky Mountain and work with them and stuff like that, it was a moment of, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in the ring with these guys.
Yeah.
It was more different for Chaz, because Chaz actually met Ricky Morton in Disney World when he was like 14 and got his autograph and a picture taken with him. And he actually took that with him and showed Ricky it and went, oh my God, I can't believe that was you, you skinny little twit. So it was definitely, and working with them, it taught you so much. Just being in the ring with guys like, the Rock and Roll Express and LOD, and even, Brad Armstrong down in Smoky Mountain and stuff like that. Just being in the ring with them, you learned so much so fast. It was such, I'm so blessed that I was able to do that in Smoky Mountain and had the opportunity.
Oh man,
Did you hear that again, Jack? Another person on this show has name dropped Brad Armstrong again. Almost every episode, someone has mentioned how great Brad Armstrong is.
Brad Armstrong was he was probably the most, fluent, most unbelievable worker I've ever worked with. I mean, he was a machine. I mean, his stuff was so good. It looked so believable. He was just an unbelievable technician. I mean, that whole family is. I mean, Jesse's the same way. Jesse's so good. Jesse's more outlandish, more charismatic, or what is it? Charismatic than most of them. That's it. Charismatic, whatever. Than most of them. And Brad was just unbelievable.
Yeah, dude. I've heard in so many podcasts recently, just Brad Armstrong getting just name dropped all the time. Like so many different wrestlers just putting him over, just saying how good he was. And it's a true testament, man, because I don't think they make wrestlers quite like him anymore, man.
No, I don't think so either. And I think Brad was tremendously underrated. And,
big time.
I don't think WCW ever used him to his, potential.
Never.
And it was funny because I kind of feel responsible for what was his name when he was the spider gimmick down there? Arachnoman? No, Brad was Arachnoman.
I have no idea.
Let me Google this.
Google Brad Armstrong Arachnoman.
You've watched all that WCW over the years, Carl. You should know.
He was in a blue and yellow outfit. He was completely covered.
Yeah, he was Arachnoman who bore such a strong resemblance to Spider-Man that Marvel Comics complained about.
Or another wrestler called the Spider.
That was you.
That was me.
Ooh.
And you know how? Well, I wasn't the original. Here's a little knowledge for you. When I first started wrestling, Larry Sharp gave me that name, the Spider, and he gave me that name for one reason. He said, because when he first started wrestling, there was a guy that used to wrestle, and he would wrestle part-time because he played professional baseball the other time. So he would wrestle under a mask, and he was called the Spider. Do either one of you know who that is? And I've confirmed this with his brother. I've confirmed this with his brother, who is quite a genius. Oh, I just gave you another hint.
Oh, talking about Randy Savage.
Absolutely. So when Larry saw me, he saw me and he goes, you know what? He goes, you have the same body type as Randy Savage did when Randy Savage first started. He
Right.
played, Randy played catcher for the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
And during the off season, he wrestled under a hood and he called himself the Spider.
Oh, wow.
And it was funny because years later, when I've got to know, Randy and I got to know Lanny, is I said something to Lanny about it. He goes, "Oh my God!" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Randy used to wrestle as the Spider with Pretty Boy Larry Sharp."
Right.
So yeah.
So, how did you like working with Vince Russo as well? Because I know he was pretty much running creative for a fair while back in was it 98, 99, Carl?
Yeah,
Yeah,
from like,
Vince-
late 97 to October 99. But he loved you guys,
Russo,
right?
Yeah, he was a huge Headbanger fan. He liked the Headbangers. He wanted us to do more and stuff like that. And, unfortunately, I want to say it was 99, I had, went down with a severe knee injury and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Very hard for me to get over. So yeah, it was, he was a huge, I never had a problem with Vince, again, it's like the same thing with Cornette.
Yeah.
If you don't want to know his opinion, don't ask him because he's going to give you his opinion.
Yeah.
Not everybody's opinions are the same. That's what, everybody's opinion's different. It's an opinion.
I think that's someone like Vince Russo would be a valuable person to be telling it how it is, especially in something like his position.
Absolutely.
These days, from what I know, again, I'm not in the WWE. I've never been employed by the WWE. So anyone listening to this, I can't speak for it. But everyone, from what we hear on the internet and see and everything, like everyone in the WWE now just seems to be a yes man, even creative, and they're willing to do so many stupid ideas and just run with it because yes sir, yes sir. I mean, I get it, but it just feels like back then, you had people like Vince Russo working creative, and they're willing to tell you how it is. And I think that's what
right. Push it, and Vince pushed the envelope. I mean, there'll never be another Attitude Era ever again.
No, it's over.
Because, could you imagine today?
Oh my God,
even
you
like
could do anything.
Even the right. You guys remember the group, the Right to Censor?
Yeah.
Imagine that group today.
Every group ever.
It would be crazy.
Yeah.
Every group now.
So I mean, Vince I think he was a great writer. I mean, he came up with stuff that was just, it was real life with a twist, and stuff like that. So he was way ahead of his time. I want to think.
No,
he gets a bad rap. I've always said it, and I know that there's a couple of guys that watch this show that come into the bottle shop I work at who don't like Vince Russo, but they just don't understand. Like, this guy did a pretty fucking good job as far as I'm concerned.
So my question to them would be, did they enjoy the Attitude Era?
Mm-hmm.
And if they said yes, then say, how can you dislike Vince Russo?
Exactly.
He was the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
He came up with it. I mean, he didn't come up with the names or anything else, but he came up with the pushing the envelope, the storylines and stuff like that. So if you liked and enjoyed the Attitude Era, you kind of have to, semi-like Vince Russo because he was a big part of it.
Yeah, and I always liked the way that he seemed to make sure everyone had something that they were doing, and that there was never a reason to say, "Oh, creative doesn't have anything for you." He always came up with something for anyone and everyone on that roster from top to bottom. They always had a little bit of direction.
Now, when I think Vince went to WCW, I think he drank a little bit too much of that Kool-Aid and put himself too much in the spotlight in WCW. So I don't know if that was his doing or Bischoff's doing or what.
I just don't think he had the supporting cast he needed over there that he had in WWF. But I wanted to ask you, how did you injure your knee in 1999?
It was in a match. It was against D'Lo and Mark Henry. And Mark Henry, he has the biggest forearms I've ever seen in my life. They're probably the size of a normal person's calf. His forearms are so big. And he hit me like right on top of the head as I was ducking a clothesline, and it knocked me out. And when it knocked me out, it looked like Chaz described it. It looked like, you had one of the puppets on the string. And it looked like somebody just cut the strings, and I just went straight down. And I dislocated my kneecap, I dislocated my knee, and I I went to the back. I finished out the match because it was on live TV. It was on Monday Night Raw. And then when I got to the back, we had a doctor back there. He, realigned it and put it back in. And I wrestled probably another maybe 2 months like that. And then just one day, I was walking across the mat. I believe it was in Madison Square Garden against Too Cool, Chris and Scott. And I heard a popping noise. And then I just went, oh, my God. And I had trouble walking and stuff like that. And it was my ACL coming off.
Okay.
So when the doctor put back in the joint, he also folded over the meniscus. So my meniscus was in half. So they tried to surgically replace that and fix that by tacking that down. And they replaced my ACL. Months later, my ACL was healed, but my meniscus died. So they had to go back in and cut some of that out. So it was my first surgery I ever had. And it was so in my head. Even when I dislocated my elbows, I didn't have surgery for that. They just popped them back in and I was good to go.
Yeah.
So it was so much of a mind fuck for me. It was just unbelievable. I felt like I couldn't run the same way. I couldn't maneuver the same way and everything else. And it was horrible. It took me so much longer to get back into the ring and stuff like that. And then when I finally got back into the ring, I was so out of shape and everything else. So it was the beginning of the end for me. So as soon as I had the knee surgery, I want to say I was in the company maybe another year and a half before I left.
Yeah.
Something to that.
I just want to know, like, while you were on the shelf, what did you think of the stories and gimmicks Chaz was being put in?
Well, I was glad that they were actually using him for something, but I knew they were going to try to roll everything together.
Right, yeah.
Because when I was on the shelf, I was in contact with the office, of course, and Bruce Pritchard told me that, when I came back, I was going to come back as the evil clown Doink, and Chaz was going to do his thing. So if you guys don't remember, back then, Bruce would run down to the ring during the hardcore matches and steal something and then run back. So he was going to be that Billy Mays guy that you see the commercials with the ShamWow and all this other stuff. So he was going to be that guy, and he was going to try to sell all these stuff that he stole from the ring, and he was going to be my manager as with Doink.
Right.
So I guess right when I started coming back and everything else, it never really grabbed hold. I don't know if Vince didn't like it or something happened. So instead of doing that, they came back and brought the Headbangers back together.
Right.
And our first match back, you know who our first match back was with?
Oh, God. I'm going to have a hard time remembering this one. No.
Okay, yeah, you don't remember. What was it, 2?
No, because I've been
2.
watching it. I've been watching it recently in chronological order, and I only just got past this bit. But
I actually was 2 then.
It was in Atlanta, Georgia Dome, and we wrestled against Chris Jericho and Mr. Hughes.
Okay.
Yeah. That was our match back.
Yeah.
We read something yesterday about you. Was it true that there was an idea to bring you back as the person behind GTV because your name's Glenn?
Well, yes,
cool.
that it was supposed to all be connected to that.
Okay.
But I don't know, whatever happened with it or anything else. But we did use that GTV to expose that girl that Chaz was with when he was doing Beaver Cleveland's. Yes, how she said she was getting beat up and everything else, and he said he wasn't doing it. So GTV called her putting on the makeup and stuff like that. So yeah, that was supposed to be being me behind it. I don't know if they ever came out and said it was. I don't know.
No.
I don't remember that far back either.
All these years.
I've been saying it's
I always thought back then it was going to be Gold Dust because he was off TV, but it turns out he was signing with WCW.
I thought it was
funny.
Gold.
Everybody thought it was Gold Dust too. Yeah, when I was watching it and stuff. But it made sense that I guess they switched it over to me, being the fact that it I guess freed Chaz from his Beaver stage and everything else. So
over to you, Jack. We haven't got much more to go, Glenn. Just a few more questions.
So,
all right.
when you two finally reunited, you did an angle where you were dressing as opponents and parodying them. And furthermore, you had massive oversized breast cones, which always made Carl laugh. It's made me laugh too. I watched it last night and I saw it.
I hated them.
So what
I
was the
hated
idea
them.
behind them? They were obnoxious as hell.
So the parodies were our idea, that we would go out and make fun of the other tag teams and stuff like that. That's why we went out the one time with the Jericho little fountain hair and stuff like that. And we dressed up as the Dummy Boys and the New Age Outlaws and stuff like that. You know, we thought it was funny. We thought it was good humor and stuff like that. And then Vince wanted us to change up. You know, he wanted us to evolve.
Yeah.
And that back then, that's when I guess Madonna showed up on one of the music things, and she had the cones on and stuff like that. And he was always a big thing with even when we did the Flying Nuns, he wanted us to wear bras and stuff the bras. He actually grabbed tablecloths and was stuffing our bras with the tablecloths because he wanted them to be obnoxiously big. So he goes, hey, I think it would be a really good transition for you guys to start wearing like the fuzzy cones. And we were like, this is stupid. It has nothing to do, you know, with the Headbanger lifestyle or anything else like that. It was just, it's something that Vince saw that he liked, I guess. I don't know. We did. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah. Random.
I still don't. I didn't like the white face that I came out with at the very end. I didn't like the fact, you know, it's in one of the encyclopedias like that. I hate it. So, it was what it was.
For me, I'm just really immature, so that's why I found it so entertaining.
It was funny. It was funny watching the guys in the back make them, you know, taking the swirly stuff and the bras and going up to Vince going, are these big enough? And stuff like that. So, you know, it's like, it's funny because people go, well, why did you do it? Because my boss told me to. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why do we do anything at the workplace? Because your boss tells you to.
Yeah.
Exactly. My boss told me, hey, wear cones. I was wearing cones. My boss told me to wear a big giant nun hat. I wore a big giant nun hat.
Hell yeah. Hey, and you guys are working one of the coolest jobs you could ever have, I reckon.
Absolutely. It was definitely a different way of life.
A fun little part here was so around 99, 2000, the tag division was seriously huge and hot at one stage there. I mean, it was consisted of some of my all-time favorite tag teams, you know, Edge and Christian, Holly's, Too Cool, APA, TNA, Main Street Posse, New Age Outlaws, so forth, so on. We could go all day.
Hardys, everyone. There's everyone. So many people, so many teams at one stage, man.
Did you find that when the division got stacked, you two were kind of forgotten about by the creative team?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I would have loved to been in that ladder match that the Dunleavy's had. I would have loved to been, you know, a little bit more and done a little bit more and stuff like that. But I think, you know, like you're saying, there was an abundance of tag teams out there, and you only have so much TV time to split it up between all of them and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, am I upset that we weren't used a little bit more? Absolutely. I would have loved to have done more. I still think that Headbangers today, when we went back in 2016, we could have, you know, helped the tag team division out some and stuff like that. And I think it was going that way, but I don't know what happened. You know, I don't know. You know, we went up there the first time and we thought for sure when we left Rhino and Heath in a bloody mess that they were never calling us again. It took them 16 years to call us back the first time, and then they go back there and bloodied up their future SmackDown Tag Team champs and everything else. And I was like, there's no way they're ever asking us to come back. And then they did. So I thought there was going to be more that came out of that, but, you know, it didn't. Grateful for the chance that we had to come back and everything else. I think if we were given an opportunity, we still have, you know, because again, I wasn't wrestling for 10 years. Chaz wasn't wrestling for 10 years. So we may be, you know, older in age-wise, but in bump-wise, we're, you know, in our early 40s.
Yeah. Because you had that big gap there, so I mean, you don't have an extra 10 years of bumps that's gonna make you slower, and you probably still got a little bit left in the tank.
It's funny because we still go. You know, we live 10 minutes apart from each other now. It's like 4 miles, and we do a lot of stuff down here in Florida and stuff like that. We've actually had a group. It's ARW, Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling, that wrestles once a month in Cocoa, Florida. And we go up every month for them. And they're one of the first ones that are actually having live events, even now with the pandemic and stuff like that. So they don't sell out the whole building because they're not allowed to, but they sell out as much as they're allowed.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has their mask on and stuff like that. But people are starving for that. They're starving for, you know, an outlet and stuff like that. And it's not the same when you watch, you know, SmackDown and Raw on TV. And no, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it in years. I can't tell you the last time I watched it. I've flipped by it and I've seen it. Same thing with AEW. You know, I've seen it, but I don't really watch it. I'm, you know, so busy with other things and stuff like that. And, you know, family, the wife, the kids, the dogs, the, you know, cutting of the grass, and, you know, we just moved into a new house, and
awesome.
you know, there's life after wrestling, and you know, right now it's really good.
So how is life after wrestling looking? So what have you been doing with yourself since then? So
I actually work in I'm a general manager for a restaurant. It's a big chain restaurant that does really, really well.
awesome.
So it's very good. It's very lucrative. I want to say.
Yep.
So, you know, I don't have, you know, any regrets or anything else like that. You know, I wish, you know, back when we were in WWF, we would have said no. We were always the yes guys. You know, hey, we need somebody to do this meet and greet. Okay, we'll do it. Hey, we need somebody. Okay, we'll do it. We need somebody to drive around the minis, the mini Vaders, the mini Undertaker. You guys remember that? The mini Mankind. We need somebody to drive them around. Okay, we'll do it. You know, we were always hey, we'll do anything that you ask us. I wish, you know, we would have said no a little bit more, because if you look at the people that said no, they had belts a lot more than we did. So, but yeah, I mean, but other than that, you know, we've never had an inch or like a itch to wrestle for WCW. You know, AEW, you know, WWE was home. You know, it's the only federation I've ever worked for, you know, even when we were doing jobs. I mean, you know, that's our home. I mean, that's the only place we ever worked.
It's awesome, man. It's good to hear that you've got a home, especially somewhere like the WWE. That's where you want to be. That's where everyone wants to be, man. So that's awesome to hear.
That's it. I really wish that we would do, like, you know, I would love to do more, like, you know, signings for them and stuff like that. I would love to be more involved with today's, you know, talent and stuff like that, because I think that, you know, like Hawk and Animal and, you know, the Rock and Roll Express had so much knowledge to give. I would love to pass that on, you know, as much as I could, or we might just be the old farts that this is, you know, are way past our prime. You know,
I think you guys for a second. You guys would do well doing a signing at an Access or something like that, because you guys still have a big following. Everyone still remembers you guys. So it
was funny because a couple of years ago we were over in Australia and stuff like that, and we were in. We did a tour over there with the guys over there, and it went really well and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So,
how did you like our country? Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. It was my first time ever there, and I held a koala bear, which is a really big one.
Amazing, bro. Even I haven't held a koala bear.
It was so much fun. We wanted to come back. And so, Adrian, if you're watching, bring us back, man. Shit. That's the promoter over there that does the big wrestling shows and stuff like that. You know, we were over there with Brian Cage, and X-Pac was with us, and, you know, Joey Ryan was there. You know, it was one of his first tours that he did, I want to say back in 2017.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So every show that we did was sold out.
Awesome.
It was great. I mean, I loved the country. The people were very nice and very polite and everything. So yeah, I loved it over there.
Awesome, man. It's good stuff. Over to you, Carl.
Right. So I wanted to get back to like the tail end of your time in the WWF in 2000. We mentioned being kind of forgotten about by the creative team. Did you two pitch ideas to creative at all, and what that process was like? Because it seemed as 2000 rolled around, you two were kind of getting stuck on Heat and Metal and Jacked. Because you feel that things were looking good for the Headbangers' future, and were you guys actively trying to do something about that?
It was weird because Chaz is very creative. He's very um, he's into that. Me, not so much. He likes to do all that stuff, so he came up with so many different ideas um, for us, and he kept coming up with them and stuff like that, and then they would say, no, 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 we're not going to do that, and then later on he'd say it was somebody else.
Yeah, like Christian with DDP, right?
Yes.
Christian
We
needed
heard
the
that story.
self-help from DDP, and that was Mosh's idea for himself, and they used it for someone else.
Right. So there was quite a few of them that were like that. So towards the end, we just got tired of pitching ideas and seeing them go with somebody else. That we just it was what it was, and I guess they just I don't know. I really don't. As still to this day, I don't have an answer. I don't know why they stopped using this. I don't know why we couldn't have fit in with, the Hardys and the Dudleys and, Christian and Edge and stuff like that. I think that mix would have been great. I think it would have been, even, I would have loved to have done more. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least be given the opportunity to be in one of those extreme matches to show that you guys can do it just as much as these guys, and maybe the Headbangers names would be up next to the Dudleys and the Hardys and Edge and Christian in these TLC matches from over the years.
Yeah, we would have loved that. We would have absolutely loved that. I felt like we were actually in the line to go that way with those matches and stuff like that, and it just never happened.
You guys would have been the perfect fit for it too.
Yeah, it would have made so much sense.
I love hitting people with shit. That's easy.
Especially tables, ladders, and chairs, man. At that time period too, and no one's seen it yet. Like, and that match has become a cult hit. So
Glenn, how did you find out about the idea of splitting the Headbangers in July of 2000? And what were your hopes or ideas that you might have had for a potential singles run coming out of that?
So the whole idea in 2000, the split up was because I was still coming back from my knee surgery and stuff like that, and I wasn't in the best ring shape that I could be in. So I mean, it was the fact that I was going down to do something else. I was going to Memphis to get back in the ring shape and stuff like that. And I think like right after that is when they just said, we're just going to go separate ways and stuff like that, which I mean, I get it. They didn't have anything for Chaz. They tried the whole low down thing and it wasn't, it didn't come to anything. They tried the beaver cleavage thing. It didn't come to anything. And, they just, after a while you just run out of ideas and stuff like that. It just, I wish it would have been different, but it wasn't. So,
how did you find out that you were being released?
Bruce Pritchard called me. Yeah, it was funny too because you kind of feel that it's coming. We were very, very close with Bruce. Bruce is an awesome guy. We were very close with Tom too, Pritchard, who we also wrestled with in Smoky Mountain. So Bruce called me up and he's like, "Hey, listen, we're just gonna, let you go and stuff like that. We just don't have anything and anything like that. I wish we did. Bruce has always been just a great guy. He was always, one we could talk to and stuff like that. He helped us actually get our, because like I said, we were part-time when we first started. He actually helped us get our full-time contract. When we found out that they were doing merchandise of us, and that wasn't in the part-time deal. So we talked to him. We were like, hey, just get that merchandise rolled into this part-time contract, because they paid for everything in our part-time contract. And he's like, well, maybe we'll sign you to a full-time, contract. So, Bruce was very, he's, still, when I see him at signings and stuff like that, he's just a great guy, and I'm glad it came from him and nobody else.
That's cool, man. Jack, over
But
to
it
you.
does feel,
Sorry.
but it does feel like your world's coming to an abrupt end.
Yeah, I can
When
imagine.
you find out that
stomach would sink.
That's being taken. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Is kind of where you go.
I guess that's where we're headed with the next question, Jack. I know the following two questions have already been answered, though, that you've got there, Jack. So,
yeah. So, what got you and Mosh back together in 2011? And wait, was that sort of the question sort of been? So the question sort of been answered. Was
that's been answered. But like the one about plans after being released.
Yeah. So, all right. So what got you and what got you and Mosh back together in 2011?
In 2011, what happened was I came down to Florida on a family vacation with my family, and he's already lived down here, and he was having his, I don't know, I guess it was 40th birthday, and it was supposed to be a surprise party. So, his wife contacted me. I drove all the way from Orlando all the way to West Palm for his surprise party. And again, I'm 315 pounds, and I'm sitting there, and I got a beer in this hand, a beer in this hand, and a plate of food in front of me, and everything else. We were taking pictures together and stuff like that. And he's like, listen, he goes, why don't you just move down here and, get back in the ring, and we'll get back into shape. And, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. That's behind me now and everything else. And, that whole 3-hour drive back to Orlando, as I started thinking, and I was like, you know what? The way the Headbangers left, it shouldn't have been like that.
Absolutely.
So I came back and I talked to my wife and everything else. And now, mind you, we have 2 small children that were under the age of 6 and 4. And I had nine dogs.
Amazing.
9, wait, not even dogs, Doberman pinchers.
That's a lot of poo to clean up.
Yeah, that is. 7 of them were puppies. So we just had to litter and everything else. So I came back. I was actually a supervisor for Domino's Pizza at the time. And what happened was I came back, and I was making great money. We were living fine. It's amazing how much money you can make, flipping pizza and making pizza and stuff like that. It's a big deal. I came back, and, we talked about it, and we packed up our cars. We had no place to live, no jobs, no nothing. We packed up 9 dogs, 2 kids, and we came down here, and a hamster that didn't make it out of the car.
Oh,
it actually died in the car. It stunk. I had to sell the car. So we moved down into Tampa, and we were living there. We were living in a hotel, trying to find a place to live, trying to, find jobs and stuff to do and everything else. And then Chaz is going, hey, come over on Sunday. We'll, Sunday fun day. Ha, ha, ha. We'll hang out and everything else. So I drive from Tampa all the way across the state to where he is, 4 hours.
Shit.
And then 4 hours back. And then when I get back, he's like, so how was your drive back? I said, it sucked ass. That's how it was. He goes, why don't you just move over here? He goes, we'll be closer. He goes, we can get back in the ring. He goes, there's a gym over here called UFit Health Clubs that you can go to. It's a lot like Planet Fitness. It's $10, $20. You can go there, get back in shape, and then we can get back together and we can start again. So that's what I did, is I went to this gym 2 times a day, morning and afternoon, did cardio. I lost 110 pounds.
Wow.
At one time, I was 210 pounds. And I just looked like a body with a light bulb on top, and then I looked sick. I looked like I had cancer. So I gained some weight back, and I got up to about 230. So like 230, 240-ish. That's what my wrestling weight was when I left, the federation.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just started wrestling again and everything else. And it was fun. It was, and then to make a story full circle, I started getting recognized in the gym as I was losing the weight because I was unrecognizable when I was 315 pounds. And one of the guys at the front desk said, "Man, you're here all this time. You're here like 6 hours a day." He goes, "Why don't you just get a freaking job here, man?" So I poked my head in the office, and I started working at UFit Health Clubs as a assistant general manager, and then within 3 months I had my own club. And
Wow.
3 months after that, I had my wife get a job there, and she still works there to this day. So yeah, it was kind of full tuition. I was there, as a GM for UFit Health Clubs for about 5 years. It wasn't. I didn't feel like I was making enough money as I'm worth, so that's why I went over back into the restaurant business and stuff like that. So
Right.
that's how it all happened. And then we showed up on Ring of Honor. I'm sure that's one of your guys' questions next.
Just forget that down there. No, we
Oh,
don't.
you didn't?
No, but I read about that earlier.
So I'll give you a fast, funny story. So Cornette didn't like the Hoods when we were the Spiders. But then when he was in Ring of Honor and brought us into Ring of Honor, he put us under Hoods and called us the Guardians of Truth.
Right.
So, yeah, that was kind of a full circle. We're like, "Jimmy, I thought you didn't like Hoods." He goes, "Yeah, but the people of Ring of Honor don't like ex-WWE people either."
Right.
So that's why we did the Hoods and stuff like that for a while.
The next thing I wanted to bring up before we get to the tail end here, well, we're at the tail end, but
Holy crap. I was going to say, we're not at the tail end yet?
we pretty much are. I just want to say I found the WWE's criticism of you both after you left to be infuriating as a fan, and I quote a Wikipedia section here. In a 2007 article in WWE Magazine, they said that the article criticized wrestlers who were considered not worthy of winning a belt they held. The Headbangers were included in this article for the supposed poor tag team championship reign. The article suggested that the team had the titles by default since it was between the eras of the Smoking Guns and the New Age Outlaws. And furthermore, in WWE's Raw 15th Anniversary magazine, it also lists 15 superstars who overstayed their welcome in the company and had the Headbangers at number 2, only behind Scott Steiner. This is bullshit as far as I'm concerned. I don't know who had a hard on to knock you guys so much on their website and in their magazine. But to me as a fan, this really pissed me off because, they had the LOD, they had the British Bulldog and Owen in the match. If they didn't think that you guys were worthy of having the belts, then why'd they give you the belts for? That's a lie. They're lying.
Right.
I did not like that whatsoever.
Well, the magazine is just one person's opinion. It's not the opinion coming from Vince, or anything else. Could you imagine if Vince had to read all the articles and approve everything?
I'm sure he
stuff
doesn't.
Like that? Yeah. He would never have enough time in the day to do anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that was just that guy's opinion. I don't know.
Well, let's find out who that guy is, because I want to have I want to write a strongly written letter to him.
But yeah, they could have gave the belts to anybody during that time, and LOD was in the match. The Godwins were in the match. Davey Boy and Owen were in that match. They could have gave it to anybody.
And you had the belt for a month, so it's not like you had a chance to even ruin the reign because you had it for 4 weeks.
But here's the funny part. But the team that had it after us had a shorter reign than us because it was 1 day. The Godwins won the belt from us on the pay-per-view and then went the next day to Monday Night Raw, wrestled against LOD, and lost the tag belts the next day. It's so funny how people forget about little things like that.
Yeah.
But then again, after we were WWF Tag Team Champs, I was a hardcore champ. They put the belt on
Yeah.
me for that, even though it was 37 seconds. They still thought enough of me to put the belt on. And
Yeah.
we were also NWA tag team champs that we beat
Exactly.
Rock and Roll Express for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, it's just one person's opinion. I don't put much behind it. Everybody has opinions. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, but like, let's be honest, that guy's a fuckhead. whoever wrote
Okay,
that,
he's
a
a fuckhead.
fuckhead. Okay.
He's a fucker. Honestly.
Hey, whoever wrote that article, you fuckhead.
Over to you, Jack.
So after 16, actually, no, it's already been answered. It's down to you, Carl.
No, but like
There's
I
more my
wanted
question
to,
than
I wanted to know about 16 years. You two finally got to reunite in WWE and perform in front of a big crowd, so that your kids could see you guys perform and do what you did back in the day. I remember you guys in a Vince Russo interview talking about how you wanted this, but you kept getting knocked back. How did you end up finally getting the opportunity to do that?
It was
I
weird
didn't
because Road Dogg reached out to Chaz and said, "Hey guys, what are you guys doing Tuesday?" I guess this was like Wednesday or something like that. And of course, Chaz thought it was a joke and everything else. Thought somebody was ribbing him. He goes, "Yeah, nothing. Why?" He goes, "Hey, because we want to bring you in Tuesday. It was supposed to be the Tuesday before we got there, and it was in Connecticut." But it got pushed back due to the laws in Connecticut with talent and stuff like that, or whatever. So we thought it was a rib. We thought it was a complete joke, and it was somebody's idea to hey, bring in the Headbangers. They're still out there wrestling. They're still in shape, and they still can go. So let's bring them in and do this and stuff like that. And it was all, from what Jesse told us, it was all approved through Vince and everything else. So it's not like it's not like Vince hates us or there's any animosity for us or anything else. It's just, when the time was right, it was right to come back. And yes, we reached out before trying to, because we do live in South Florida, trying to, do stuff at the Performance Center and stuff like that. And, either the emails didn't get read or Hunter didn't say no, not at this time or stuff like that. And, in this business, you learn to never say never. I'm never going to say that you won't see us again, in a ring or doing something with WWE. I would love to. I would, because like I said, that's home for me.
Yeah.
That's home for both of us. So I mean, I would love to do something, whether it's even a guest appearance at the Performance Center for training or anything like that. I mean, it would be fun. But you never know. Sometimes it's in the car, sometimes it's not.
Well, I mean, you did train the Big Show, so I mean, surely.
Right. Look how well that worked out. Well, it's funny because after the Big Show was at the Monster Factory for about a month and a half, maybe a month and a half, he went down to the power plant down in WCW.
Yeah.
So that's where he gives most of his credit for his training from, which, the majority of his training came from there. But, you can't deny where you originally started. You should never deny where you started.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wanted to know if you had any funny stories of dealing with bad customers in the restaurant business.
Every day.
Amazing.
Every day. There's some, when they're placing orders or stuff like that, and they have the kid in their hand, and the kid's crying, they're talking to people in the background, they're trying to order their food or something like that. Or when they give a credit card number, it's 7700-4607. I'm going to go, O is a letter of the alphabet. It's not a fucking number. You idiot. And that happens every day. Every day. But no, it's a little bit different now. This time around in the restaurant business, it's, my restaurant does, a lot in a week. Probably between $35,000 and $40,000 a week. So, and it's takeout and delivery. So
yeah,
it's a lot. But yeah, I mean, you get it every day. Sometimes I chuckle at it. You can't understand people on the phone. I am in South Florida, so not a lot of people speak English. Um, and they're extremely hard to understand on the phone and stuff like that. And it's just sometimes it gets nerve wracking to talk to some people on the phone. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get to our final segment, which is called 5 Second Frenzy, I have one last question here for you today, Thrasher. What would your ideal scenario be for the Headbangers to have their final tag match or final run in wrestling?
It's funny because I would love to do like a final. I don't know who the match would be with. I always thought we'd have one last run in WWE and stuff like that. But if that doesn't happen, maybe we can do like a world tour like the bands do and stuff like that. I think that's appropriate for the
Well, it makes
Headbangers
sense,
to do.
right? Yeah.
Like, yeah, it goes together. But everybody always talks about the Hall of Fame and stuff like that and everything else. And, it's funny. I don't see it like other people see it, but if that would ever happen, it would be the greatest, I guess, ending for everything. It would be an honor to even be, thought of, when everybody says, oh, the Headbangers 2021 Hall of Fame. Everybody thought we were going last year because it was in Tampa. But we all saw what happened to WrestleMania last year. But, again, I never say never. I think we're the most underrated and most underappreciated tag team that I can remember.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, and I'll name it. I don't think 3D or, the Dudley Boys tag team moves are better than ours. I don't think they gel better than us. I think that we had the most innovative tag team moves, that anybody had. So, I hate the fact that we're not always, I always see it on Facebook all the time that, people say the greatest tag teams, and it's always, LOD, the Dudleys, Jeff and Matt, and, all these other names. And we're not even under other. And it's just like, how, regardless of the accolades and the belts and stuff like that, whatever happened to ring work, I don't think any of those tag teams could outwork us or anything else. I think that we were the best natural tag team together. We weren't two guys that were thrown together. Me and Chaz, we still talk and see each other. We talk almost every day. So, we're still as close, if not closer today as we were back then. I just wish we were, even in the picture when people talk like that. But people look too much at the belts, the props, and stuff like that. They don't look at the ring work, and they look at finishers, and they don't look at why do people remember the Dudleys finish? Because they were multiple tag team champions. Why don't they think of the Headbangers finish? Because we weren't.
Yeah.
We held the WWF tag belts once, the NWA tag team belts once. And that's what they remember. They don't remember how good that finish is and how hard and the timing and everything else it is together.
Yeah, I agree, man. I love the stage dive. And as far as I'm concerned and Jack's concerned, the Headbangers Hall of Fame is in our hearts, Glenn.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You guys will no doubt get the Hall of Fame one day. Let's it's just a matter of when, not if. They will. It'll get around to you.
I hope so.
I should hope so.
They will.
So, Glenn, before we go, this is a little segment called 5 Second Frenzy, where I just have like a few questions just to get to know you outside of, mostly outside of wrestling. And you got 5 seconds to answer each question. It's quick fire.
Okay.
But as with usual, when we ask these questions to wrestlers, they have to take longer than 5 seconds to answer them, which is okay. It's okay if you break the rule. Okay. So first question, your favorite match that you ever had?
WrestleMania 13 and winning the tag team belts.
Awesome.
Obvious question.
Favorite wrestler?
Favorite wrestler of all time, Randy Macho Man Savage.
Brilliant.
Sick.
Your favorite opponent or opponents?
Favorite opponents, New Age Outlaws or the Godwins, and LOD.
Sweet.
Excellent. Your favorite food?
My favorite food, steak.
Great.
Me too. Me too.
Solid.
Your favorite alcoholic beverage?
It's it's funny that you mentioned that because I stopped drinking altogether I haven't drank in years. And then Chaz just I like coconut water and Tito's vodka.
Ooh,
Very nice.
nice choice.
Your favorite film?
My favorite film, Billy Madison.
Very good.
Huge Adam Sandler fan.
Me too. Your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show. Oh, Jesus Christ. Football, HGTV. I'm very old now, so I watch that HGTV home renovation stuff and things
I
like
find
that.
those shows so interesting.
Yeah.
It's
So,
funny when you're younger, you don't really care about that stuff. When you get older, you're like, oh, this is fantastic stuff.
It actually
yeah,
is.
exactly. Right. I can fix that. I
Yeah.
can just watch HGTV and I can do it. Yes. Yeah.
Your favorite musical artist?
Favorite musical artist, I'd have to say, God, old school stuff. It would probably be Miley Cyrus. No.
Sick.
There's no way.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
Back in the day, I loved listening to Manson. Guns N' Roses,
Yeah.
Black Sabbath, Ozzy. I wish I listened to them more, but I'd have to say all those.
Sweet.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm driving with you, man.
Stretch,
I'm driving with you. I'm
wasn't
all
far
about heavy
stretch
metal.
to hat.
Yeah. Guns N'
The
Roses
old
is my
stuff
favorite.
is the best stuff.
It
And
is.
here's the thing. If it wasn't for the old style of heavy metal, there would be no rap music. Think about it. If you take heavy metal and slow it down just a little bit, it's rap. Just change the beat.
I get you. Two more. What is your favorite female body part?
Boobies.
And lastly,
I'm
what
a
is
breast
your
man.
excellent?
Oh, I lost him again. Oh, wait.
Oh, shit. That's fantastic.
Oh, there you go.
Amazing.
Okay.
If she wants us to
And-
try
and-
and black that out.
And I
when we-
always believe what God can't give you, a good doctor can.
If she wants us to put up a censored picture when that happens in the show, then we can do that.
We could just put a picture of
Don't put up a
Thrasher's
censored
face
picture.
or Chaz's face.
And lastly, your favorite curse word.
Fuck.
Excellent.
Sick. Great.
I
Many
say it all
people
the
said
time.
that. Me too. Fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Fuck.
Well,
Damn it, fuck.
Thrasher, Glenn Ruth, we want to thank you for your time here tonight. I know we've gone a little longer than I had asked for, but we had so much fun with you tonight. Really appreciate it. And me and Jack, I can speak for him as well. We really love the Headbangers. And as we said, your Hall of Fame is in our hearts. And I hope you're very proud of everything that you did in the wrestling business and what's to come. I'm sure there's going to be some more great moments for you to come.
Oh, yeah.
Only time will tell. We'll see. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
No
Thank you very
worries. And ladies and
don't
gentlemen, this
forget-
was... Sorry, Glenn.
Don't forget, don't let your meatloaf, if you know what I mean.
Thank you, Glenn. And this was the 55 Live podcast here in conjunction with the WZWA Network. I am your host, California Ferry, alongside my other host, Mr. 55 Live, Jack Wallace. This was our new friend, Glenn Ruth, also known as Headbanger Thrasher.
My mom.
Oh, dear. Well, hopefully our viewers will be more in tune than she has. And we will see you next time. Thank you.
See you guys.